highlights all over the world. I feel a little bit like Maurizio Sarri yesterday night, right? When he took off Cancellieri and brought on Pedro that changed the game. It's a little bit like today. I sub Alistair and brought on Karsten. What a substitution. A game changer substitution, I would add. Hi, Karsten.
Hello, Vittorio. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
So we're using even this microphone so that the sound this time should be better. But Karsten, let's start from obviously the match of last night, because I was surprised from a lot of things. I think thing number one was the selection of Maurizio Sarri. I think we'd be talking about this earlier. I thought that Cancellieri would have played, but not from the beginning. Didn't expect Marcos Antonio to start. And I thought these changes, which makes sense in the long term, affected the performance of the match, of Lazio in particular, especially in the first half, right? Do you agree with me?
Yes, I do. I think that the European version of Lazio has been very different from the version that is playing in Italy. On the way to this coffee shop, you and I talked about Gila, the problems that he's causing. If you look at the defense when they're playing in the Italian league, in the Serie A, I think it has a lot of control, which is not something we're used to as Lazio people. But yesterday I didn't see control. I mean, Lazio won, and they won deservedly. If you look at all the stats, there's nothing wrong with that win. They definitely deserved the win. But I did not feel that they had control. I felt until the very end, this can go wrong. Did you agree with me?
Absolutely, unfortunately, absolutely. And I have to admit that this is something that happened very often to Lazio, so I wouldn't have been completely surprised about that. It's very bizarre because in Serie A, Lazio is 6 consecutive clean sheet. 7 in total in Serie A. In Europe League, with less matches, only once Lazio was able to keep a clean sheet. So I think it's even the mentality. But a big team has to rotate, right? And can it be possible that just Gila, because pretty much yesterday was the starting defense with Gila instead of Patrick that was injured, or Casale that came in later, can that be such, can Gila have such a big impact in the performance of the defense? Yes, if you didn't see the match yesterday, the goal of Midtjylland comes from a terrible mistake from Gila, and Marcos Antonio didn't help to add this. But can it be that the only reason why Lazio defense is struggling in Europe League?
I don't think it's the only reason. I think that whenever Lazio plays against the European opposition, they don't know them as well as they know the Italian opposition. I think they get surprised once in a while. If you look at the game in Denmark when they lost 5-1, I went to that game on the stadium, and Midtjylland's most dangerous attacking player, Isaksen, the guy who scored the goal last night, I think it looked like Lazio had never seen him on video. And I think it looked like Lazio were underestimating Midtjylland, not yesterday, but when they were playing in Denmark. Because I think they commit like 2 fouls that are turned into penalties in Herning on the same guy, and he's doing the same dribbling. Yeah. And that's like his trademark dribble is the right dribble, and it looked like the Lazio defenders had not seen that on video. And if they had seen 10 minutes of video with this guy Isaksen, and he's a really good player, he'll be sold for a lot of money. He's a really good player. But if they had seen 10 minutes of his videos, they would know that that's his trademark dribble, and it didn't look that way at all. So I think sometimes when Lazio's defense is not doing that well in Europe, they just don't know their opponents that well. But in Italy, they know their opponents really, really well. I think that, but I do think that yesterday, Isaksen, who's the goal that he scored, he's very, very left-footed. And he scored with his right foot, with a really, really good goal from outside the penalty box. I see every single game because Midtjylland is my mother team. It's from the place where I'm come from in Denmark. So I see every single Lazio game and every single Midtjylland game. These are my 2 biggest teams. And I've never seen him score a goal like that before. He never scores with his right foot. And then he doesn't only score with his right foot, he scores a really great goal with his right foot after a terrible mistake.
And to be honest with you, if you go and see Provedel, he looks surprised that he scored like that. So maybe Provedel studied a little bit Isaacson, and was surprised as well. The positive things, Karsten, is that knowing Lazio, when things start going bad, sometimes, or especially in the past, they struggle to regroup. This time it took a little bit, 7-8 minutes, but I would say after the 25th minute of the first half, Lazio started playing better, started attacking and creating chances. So yeah, the defense was definitely negative, but we have to talk about the positive side. Lazio was able to recover and overall win a match deservedly, even though we said it before, Midtjylland hit the crossbar at the beginning of the second half and had a great chance at the end of the match. But that's encouraging, seeing Lazio recovering and playing better as the match goes on.
Yes, I thought the first half hour was kind of a messy game, which is kind of what Midtjylland wanted, because when you're facing a team that's better than you, and Lazio is a better team than Midtjylland. Midtjylland is a small team. I think that what you want is a messy game. But after the first half hour, I thought that Lazio got it settled down. The last 15 minutes of the first half, I mean, they scored a goal. They could have scored 2, 3, 4. You had the feeling that if the referee hadn't blown his whistle for half time, it could have gone awfully wrong for Midtjylland. Because when they came out to the second half, it was more balanced again. All in all, I think that Lazio won. If you look at the stats, they win the match by approximately 1 to 1.5 goal. And I think that's kind of what we take away from it. It wasn't a great performance by Lazio by any means. But when you have a sub like Pedro, who comes in, scores a goal, he could have scored 2, he could have scored 3 even. Yeah. He's still such a good player. He's old. Not old like you and me, but he is old. And he's still quick. And I think the Midtjylland defenders, and they are not very quick. I think they were surprised that this older guy is still so quick. He can shoot with his left foot. He can shoot with his right foot. He's got so much class. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that Pedro is on Lazio's team, because what a super sub. He really is a super sub.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pedro, those type of champions that are able to decide important matches, and Pedro is that player, right? But you talk about Pedro. Let's talk about Matteo Cancellieri, that started for the first time this season, I think ever, in a professional match. He started like number 9. I thought he didn't play that well at number 9. When Felipe Anderson moved in the center and he went back to the right, he played much better. But what's your impression on Matteo Cancellieri's performance yesterday?
Just let me finish this this stew. This is my breakfast, so I'm going to do my best to finish this. Cancellieri, I think, is a lot of raw talent. I think we can all see that the talent is there. He's quick, he's big, he's physical. I think he looks very hungry when he's on the pitch. He's not lazy, that's for sure. I'm not sure he's intelligent enough to play the number 9 for Lazio. When you play the number 9, Felipe Anderson does it really. Felipe Anderson is amazing right now. He's so good. But Ciro Immobile is he has such a big brain. I think that every time Ciro Immobile plays, we say that he's a great goal scorer. But he's a really intelligent number 9 as well, especially for Lazio, because he sort of organizes the whole attack. And Cancellieri, obviously does not do this at all. He doesn't have the first touch that Immobile has, and not that Felipe Anderson has. He's a little bit clumsy. He lacks a little bit if you look at the technical level, but he is very quick. He's very strong. I think he'll score goals in the future, but I'm not sure the number 9 is right for him. I think that if you look at the match in general yesterday, I think Midtjylland, over 2 matches against Lazio, they were afraid to really get their asses kicked. They won 5-1 in Denmark, still an amazing result, which kick-started Midtjylland's campaign. Yeah. Because Midtjylland had not won a match in, I think, 15 matches. Now they haven't, until last night, they hadn't lost in 12 matches after that. So that win in Denmark was very important for Midtjylland. I think losing 2-1 in Rome, it's not too bad. The goal score is still good. If Midtjylland wins their last match against Sturm Graz at home, they proceed either for the Europa League or maybe for the Conference League. And that's not a bad result for Midtjylland. If they go to the Conference League, that's not too bad. I mean, it's a small team. Lazio is a much bigger team. If they don't go on to the knockout phases, I think it's a fiasco.
Well, before talking about going forward, etc., I want to talk even about Luca Romero, because we were wondering when he'll play, when we'll have some chance. He came later yesterday, around 73rd minute, and the thing that I love more of this player is how he plays. He's not only talented, but you see he wants to play badly, and when he's on the pitch, he do everything to get the ball, to fight on every single ball. Yesterday, I mean, Midtjylland defenders are not small, and he was fighting tackles, dribble passing. Yeah, he didn't create anything. Well, he had a couple of chances. Don't know if one was penalty or not. I didn't rewatch it. But I like so much these players. And yesterday night I was thinking, come on, he has to play much more than that, especially now without Ciro. For me, even though he played, 27 minutes, he played better than Cancellieri. He deserved more time than Cancellieri probably in the coming matches. He's only 17. You see that his future is very, very bright.
I agree with you. I think that he has a great attitude whenever he goes on the pitch. He has a really, really good attitude. I like that a lot. I still haven't really seen him get really, really dangerous on the ball. I don't see him that close to the goal. I'm not sure if his ideas are the right ones when he gets on the pitch. We have to remember he's 17, 18?
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, he's so young, and he's still improving. I heard somewhere that he's actually gaining a lot of weight, like muscle-wise, because when he got to Lazio, he was just this small boy. When he was in Denmark, I was watching the game from the stands. I was very close to the pitch, and he was warming up right next to me, like 2-3 meters away from me. He's so small. I mean, he's like one head below me. He really, really looks like a boy. He still does. That doesn't mean he can't play well. Messi is very small, so it's possible. I like him as well. I'm not sure that he should play more. I think that he's getting. A fair bit of playing time with Maurizio Sarri, who is, as we know, he doesn't really like young players. Well, no Italian coaches do. But I think that you want to talk about Luca Romero, but I really want to talk about Zaccagni, because Zaccagni, I think, he's almost one of our best players now. Every single match, I think that he's always been good. But now he scores goals, he's dangerous, he provides assists. I think the Midtjylland right side defender tonight had a nightmare about Zaccagni. Every time he had the ball, he got substituted, that right side defender. The other guy came in, and he just did the same with him. He's an excellent player. I really think he is. I talked to the guy who comments the game for Danish TV. He's an old friend of mine. I talked to him at halftime, and he said, "What's this Zaccagni guy? Where's he from?" So he's making a lot of impressions out there.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, Zaccagni was, for two reasons, a nice signing. Number one is because it was a fast replacement. Lazio was going for Kostic, they didn't sign him, and the day afterwards they were able to sign Zaccagni. He's still very young, and I think he has huge potential. One thing last year, he arrived in Rome and got injured for a couple of months, so that didn't help. But one thing that Sarri said about him last year is that he's very good, but he needs to get more in the box. Because as a winger, he needs to score goals. And to be dangerous, you need to get in the box. Yes, you can score from outside, but especially when Lazio playing with the 4-3-3, when the action is on the other side, you need the winger from the opposite side to finish it. And that was something that last year Zaccagni was lacking of. If you go and check this year, he's much better player because he understood it. He has to finish. He has to get in the box. Otherwise, Ciro Immobile is all alone. And this happened very often last year. So he's grown a lot on this side. And Sarri said yesterday, I would be really disappointed if he doesn't finish in double figure score. And I think he can do it, definitely can do it. He's growing a lot. He has been finally called from to the national team. I think with lack of talent in the Italian national team, I think Zaccagni deserves to be there. And with Sarri, who is a sort of a teacher, let's call him like that, he can definitely grow and become much, much better. We saw the improvement. I think this season, without injury, he can still develop a lot. And again, he, as he's an Italian, he didn't get a lot of credit when Lazio signed him. You know, in the papers in Italy, if you're called Zaccagnino, you would have the first page of every newspaper. If you're called Zaccagni, it's just another signing. But this guy has everything: speed, good feet. Physically, he's not that bad. He's developing a brain, attacking set brain. So he has everything to be very dangerous. And you have to add something, Karsten. When you have Felipe Anderson, Ciro Immobile, Zaccagni, for the defense is difficult. You cannot double mark someone because the other one will be free, no? And with Pedro on the bench, you cannot be tired, at halftime, because if Pedro come in, it's going to be a nightmare for you, right? So Lazio has different option there, and this is probably one of the reasons why Luca Romero is playing that little. But yeah, Zaccagni is definitely growing, and it's really encouraging, right?
Yeah, and also I was thinking that while you and I discussing how good Zaccagni is, and I think he was the best player on the pitch last night, but we're also sort of ignoring how good Sergej Milinkovic-Savic is in every single game, you know. But we don't even mention it anymore. And he was so good last night. And I know a few of the people who work in Midtjylland, and some of the players who played against Milinkovic-Savic in the first game when he was subbed. He didn't start. He was subbed in. Said after the game, I mean, he was just class. It's just impossible to get the ball away from him. He's so strong. He's so intelligent. I mean, his first touches are just out of this world. He's such a good player. I wish he was a little bit more of a leader sometimes, which I think Ciro Immobile is such a leader for Lazio. Right now they're not missing him that much. It looks like they're doing much better than we were fearing. Because I know that you and I were saying Lazio without Immobile, what's going to happen? But it looks like some of the older players on the pitch. Romagnoli is doing really well. Provedel. He's not older, but he's also doing really well. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic is doing well. Zaccagni is sort of, and especially Felipe Anderson as well, is sort of doing his part. I'm very impressed by this Lazio team, and I wasn't in this podcast after the Atalanta game, but I just want to say that's one of the best games I've seen Lazio play in years. So much control against a difficult team. It's a much better team than FC Midtjylland, and they beat them 2-0. There wasn't really that much of a problem. It was very well deserved. And as you said, Provedel didn't have one save in that game. I mean, you guys have talked about it before, but I haven't talked about it. And I'm still raving about that game. It was such a good game.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's Thursday and Karsten's still talking about Lazio-Atalanta. And the funny thing, Karsten, is Atalanta didn't have a chance. But Midtjylland not only had a chance, but they also scored. So that's incredible. But one thing you talked about is Lazio playing so well without Ciro Immobile. I think this is big credit to Maurizio Sarri, because Simone Inzaghi, and I still believe it, he's a great manager, and look, Inter, they're gonna fight for the title to the end and probably win it, but he was relying a lot on key players. We remember with Simone Inzaghi, if Luis Alberto wasn't playing at top level or Ciro Immobile wasn't playing, Lazio wouldn't been at the same level. They would drop a lot. With Maurizio Sarri, we are seeing Lazio playing well even without Luis Alberto, without Ciro Immobile, etc. I was really concerned without Ciro, and I always mention it. But if you go and watch last year, Ciro missed 5 matches, I think. We lost the first 2, but in the last 3, or maybe in the last 5, Lazio didn't lose a match. We drew twice, one against Juventus, and we won twice. So this is a massive improvement compared to the past when Ciro was missing. Ciro is still a key player for Lazio, don't get me wrong, but I think that Sarri find a type of football that obviously with key players it's better, but even without key players Lazio still keep playing, and with Felipe Anderson, etc., they find a way to score. So this is the biggest difference compared to the past. Ciro is still going to be important, and I think Salernitana test will be more important because Midtjylland came here and played the match. Salernitana will come here and put the bus in front of the goal. So you're going to feel and miss probably a real number 9, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think one of the reasons why it's working so well, even without Ciro, is that Maurizio Sarri he's got these patterns going on, and he's teaching his players about these patterns all the time. So, whenever one guy is not playing, there's just another guy. He knows the patterns just as well as the first guy. I don't think that anyone can do the things as well as Ciro can do him. I mean, that Ciro is an amazing player, but if the replacement knows the patterns really well, it doesn't necessarily have to be terrible without Ciro. No. I read somewhere that one of Maurizio Sarri's assistants was asked, what is it with Maurizio Sarri? I mean, what's he like as a coach? And he says whenever Maurizio Sarri sees a new football team, he wants to build a castle. He wants to build the same castle every time. But once in a while you get to a club like Chelsea or Juventus, and he's not really allowed to build that castle. When he was in Napoli, smaller club than Juventus and Chelsea, with less money, definitely, he was allowed to build that castle. I think that in Lazio he talked to our president, and I think that he basically he acknowledged that this guy's he's not gonna talk about the football with me. I'm gonna be the only one responsible, so I can build my castle again. And I think he's building that castle in Lazio. If you look at Lazio now, do you remember the Napoli teams that Sarri had back in 2015 and all? I mean, they were amazing back then. I think this Lazio team is looking like that Napoli team more and more, and that's not a bad thing.
No, definitely it's not. Finish the cornetto, otherwise I feel guilty that you're not eating. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, this Lazio team is playing great football. In Europe League, not as well as in Serie A. In Serie A, we are playing unbelievable football compared to, I mean, you were mentioning the budget. Obviously, Lazio budget is not comparable to Juventus, Inter and Milan. But still, we were able to beat Inter. We lost against Napoli, and Napoli for me, it's at the moment the team playing better football, not only in Italy, even in Europe, and they saw it in Champions League. But this team is growing, and it's positive, Karsten, because with Inzaghi, every time we did a little bit of turnover, you can see the form, the performance drop. Yesterday wasn't the best Lazio, but still a decent Lazio, a good enough Lazio to beat Midtjylland. And this leads me to probably the last question. Sarri talked about Marcos Antonio, and he said he had a good performance yesterday. I'm happy about his performance. Same thing about Basic. I don't agree with that. I can understand that the manager is defending his players. I think after 1 year, especially from Basic, I expect much more from that. Didn't convince me yesterday, to be honest. He wasn't bad, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he was awful. But especially with Vecino playing like that, if Basic keep playing like this, he won't have a lot of time. He won't be playing a lot. Marcos Antonio, he needs to get time because that's a very difficult position. You have to learn, you have to get used to that, etc. But Basic, and this is not the first time this season that he plays like that. If he continues like this, I don't think he's going to be on the pitch very often going forward. And this, I think Basic is a very talented player. He's very similar to Milinkovic Savic, and that probably is the biggest issue he has. But he has to step up, even from the mentally point of view, not only physical, mentally. He has to perform better, give a little bit of attitude in the pitch, show that he wants to play, he wants to win. And I didn't see that yesterday, honestly. Am I too harsh with him, or do you agree with me?
I think you might be a little bit too harsh on him, because Basic is he's a very physical player. He's big, he's strong. I think he'll play against Roma. Either him or Vecino. We definitely need something physical against Roma, because Roma are amazing on free kicks, on corner kicks. They have so many strong players. I mean, even their three defenders are so strong in the air. We need some. Apart from our defenders, we also need some physicality from the midfield. I think Luis Alberto will. I don't think he'll play against Roma. He's not the kind of player for that kind of match. It'll be a physical match. It could get ugly. I mean, they often do, the derbies, you know. So I'm sorry for talking about that right now, but it's on my mind as it is right now, the Roma Lazio game. And actually, that's is that following the game against Feyenoord as well?
Yes.
And Lazio need a point against Feyenoord now. 1 point. If they don't get that 1 point, they might be in the. I mean, they'll go to the Conference League. So they need 1 point against Feyenoord, which could prove difficult because Feyenoord lost yesterday. So they might need to win to even get a chance to proceed. You know, so to advance rather. It'll be difficult. I'm very much looking forward to that derby. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be at the derby. You are probably, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the situation in the group because it's very difficult. Graz winning probably was the worst result possible for Lazio because now we're going to play next Thursday in Netherlands against Feyenoord. Feyenoord has only to win. If they don't win, they are out of everything. So they need to win. Lazio need to win because Lazio need to arrive first. I mean, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Juventus, they're all coming to Europa League next winter. So you want to avoid those teams. So you need to win probably to be first. You have to see what Sturm does, but to be sure, you have to win, and it's not going to be easy against Feyenoord away with Feyenoord who has only just one result. So I wonder if they will play till the death or maybe give up before starting the match. That could be an option. But you're playing Thursday, Sunday there's the derby. I don't know if the players will be focusing on the match or on the coming derby. So that's another important thing to think about. So yeah, it's not an easy group. It's unbelievable. No one expected to be everything be decided at the last game because we were thinking this would be a much easier group. Roma is playing at home, Lazio is playing away, so that's another big advantage to Roma. So yeah, there are a lot of question marks, and you know, you saw Midtjylland. Will they fight till the end at home against Sturm Graz, or because they have still a chance to get to the conference, even to get through the Europa League? So I expect a big fight there. So that Midtjylland could be a friend for Lazio the next match.
Yes, definitely. Midtjylland will do everything they can in their power to get to advance to either the Champions League or the Conference League. And I think they have a pretty good chance of winning that match. They against Lazio last night. They didn't have their best player. Midtjylland's best player, I think, is a new player. The player they signed this summer, Christopher Olsen. He's a Swedish international. Plays every time for the Swedish national team. He's actually a little bit too good for Midtjylland. I mean, but they got him because he was in Midtjylland 5-6 years ago when he was just a kid, and then he's been in Russia, he's been in Belgium, and I think he got in trouble in Belgium with his coach, and then Midtjylland had the chance to loan him. So he's a loan deal for 1 year, but it'll be difficult for Midtjylland to keep him because his wages are really, really high. And Midtjylland, they don't really pay that high wages. I mean, the Danish league is a small league. But this guy, I think he didn't play against Lazio. He wasn't even on the bench. But he was really good in the first game against Lazio. Maybe the best player on the pitch. And if he's playing against Sturm Graz, I think Midtjylland has a really good chance of winning. At the moment, things are going Midtjylland's way. Not last night, but apart from that, almost everything is going Midtjylland's way. There's a lot of optimism around the club. I think they have a good chance of winning that game, and that would help Lazio for sure. Yep. Definitely.
Thank Karsten for joining me today. Much better than Alistair, we have to admit. And I hope the microphone works and the noise of Roma wasn't too bad. And we're going to be back after Lazio Salernitana, another very important match for Lazio. Please rate and review the podcast. Comment if you have something to talk about this podcast, about Lazio, etc. And rate and review on Apple and Spotify. Bye. See you later.